Thanks for joining us on the CBN News Channel. I'm Charlene Israel. Time may be running out for the president and Democrats in Congress to pass gun control legislation. 4 months after the Newtown, Connecticut tragedy, the president is making a big push for a vote, but a growing number of Republicans pledged to stand in his way. Gary Lane has more.
President Obama met with families of the Sandy Hook victims in Hartford, Connecticut, just 1 hour away from Newtown, where the December shootings took place. He said he was determined as ever to honor their children with tougher gun laws.
This is not about me. This is not about politics. This is about doing the right thing for all the families who are here that have been torn apart by gun violence.
But public opinion and a growing number of legislators are against him. Bans on assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition clips, proposals the president wanted to see enacted, are unlikely to gain congressional approval. At least a dozen Senate Republicans say they oppose expanded background checks, and they've threatened a filibuster in the Senate to prevent any new legislation from coming to the floor for a vote. And Republican Minority Leader Mitch McConnell now says he'll join those efforts. That resistance comes despite offers from Majority Leader Harry Reid to allow amendments to be made to proposed legislation. Conservatives say the Democratic proposal would violate the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, citing history's lesson that government cannot be in all places at all times, and history's warning about the oppression of a government that tries. The president says he wants an up or down vote.
They're not just saying they'll vote no on ideas that almost all Americans support. They're saying they'll do everything they can to even prevent any votes on these provisions.
A new CNN poll shows that only 45% of Americans now approve of the president's handling of the gun control debate. 52% disapprove. The administration's push will continue this week. Vice President Biden and Attorney General Eric Holder are set to make their case for legislation with law enforcement officials at the White House. But the administration and Democrats on Capitol Hill are facing an uphill battle. Gary Lane, CBN News.
North Korea is warning foreigners to leave South Korea because it says the two countries are on the brink of war. Observers say the threats are mostly bluster aimed at bolstering the image of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Still, America's allies in the region are taking precautions. Japan has deployed 2 interceptor missiles capable of engaging a North Korean rocket. Meanwhile, the North has shut down a joint industrial complex that it shared with the South. Chinese officials are racing to contain the spread of a new strain of bird flu. Some 400 labs and 500 hospitals are on the lookout for the latest virus. Poultry markets in 3 cities have been closed. The H7N9 influenza has been found in pigeons, but new cases have been found in humans. At least 24 people have been infected and 7 have died from the virus. Officials in Shanghai and 3 nearby provinces in central eastern China are working on a vaccine. Pigeon enthusiasts in China plan to vaccinate up to 90,000 birds to help ward off the spread of the flu. World leaders are remembering the legacy of Margaret Thatcher today. The former British Prime Minister died Monday of a stroke. As Dale Hurd reports, she was more than a political titan. She was also a cultural icon.
It was said that Margaret Thatcher returned the great to Great Britain. She burst onto the political scene at the age of 34, the youngest woman ever elected to Parliament. In 1979, Thatcher swept the Conservative Party into power and became the first woman Prime Minister. Her political and economic philosophies were steadfast anti-communism, self-reliance, and free markets, unfashionable ideas at the time.
I presume this is to enable us to sweep Britain clean of socialism.
Thatcher found a kindred spirit in President Ronald Reagan and had a famous moment during the first Gulf War when she instructed a vacillating President George Bush that it was no time to go wobbly. She gained a nickname which she wore with pride.
The Iron Lady of the Western world.
She led Britain to victory when Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands. But in 1990, she was ousted in a bitter political fight within the Conservative Party. Still, Thatcher's legacy remains intact in the United Kingdom and around the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're leaving Downing Street for the last time after 11 and a half wonderful years and we're very happy that we leave the United Kingdom in a very, very much better state than when we came here 11.5 years ago.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
And joining us now is Dr. Paul Bonicelli, Executive Vice President of Regent University and Professor of Government. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Glad to.
Now, first of all, Margaret Thatcher is regarded as a conservative hero. What are her greatest accomplishments?
Yeah, a couple of things that stand out. Of course, the Cold War. You have Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, and Pope John Paul II in power at the same time. And each contributed differently to the end of the Cold War. But above all, it was the toughness to face communism, to not say that we'll just live with it, to say that it enslaves people and we will fight it and it threatens us. And she was probably as strong, if not stronger, really, than the other two, the men, in her bold pronouncements about it. The other thing I would say is providing an excellent model for women in politics and leadership. She did not owe the feminist movement anything. She made that very clear. She did everything on her own. As the daughter of a grocer, from the middle class in Britain, that's a big deal to us. That's not such a big deal. But in Britain, that was a big deal for her to climb that way. So I think her leadership, the way she did it, and what she did are the two great legacies.
Awesome lady. Well, she once called Ronald Reagan the second most important man in her life. How crucial was the Reagan-Thatcher alliance?
This is where those who deny Providence have a difficult time. To have Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, the Pope in power, Helmut Kohl in Germany, and a few others around the world, Lech Walesa living and fighting communism. It's really that combination of those people and their efforts and their beliefs that promoted their efforts.
How has the world benefited from their partnership?
I think the partnership produced two kinds of leadership, or two results of leadership. The end of the Cold War, facing down communism, giving Gorbachev, a communist who wanted to find a different way, even though he didn't really want to get rid of communism, an option to work with them. And secondly, proving to the world that free market economics is the only way people can have wealth, the only way people can achieve. The government cannot solve people's problems. They can solve them themselves if the government gets out of their way and allows the gifts and talents God has given everybody to flourish.
And who are the heirs of their philosophy today?
You have a lot of Republican governors right now. You certainly have, any Republican in the United States would say, I'm an heir of the Reagan-Thatcher partnership and their ideas. But you have a lot of Democrats as well, because when someone is as profoundly influential as Margaret Thatcher, and I think Ronald Reagan was, you have people like Bill Clinton, centrist Democrats who look to them and accept, some of those ideas make sense. I'll adopt some of that. Tony Blair, her successor, who was a man of the left, the Socialist Party essentially in England, came very far toward her ideas.
What do we know about her Christian faith?
We know that she was traditional in her Christian beliefs, raised in a very strong Methodist family, and some American conservatives, Christian conservatives, think that they would have loved to have heard her say more about abortion and things like that. My understanding is when she spoke about those things, and it was rare, but when she did, she spoke in favor of the traditional family. She spoke in favor of life, and thought that these things were part of the bedrock of a strong society. She wasn't just about free market economics. She was about the strength of the individual and the family.
Excellent. Dr. Bonicelli, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. We told you earlier that the president is renewing his push for gun control, but private citizens are pushing back. All Around Pizza in Virginia Beach earned the national spotlight after starting a promotion to show support for the Second Amendment. Caitlin Burke spoke with the owner about his discount and his decision to take a stand.
I'm here at All Around Pizza in Virginia Beach. This used to be a one-man shop until a promotion to support the Second Amendment right to bear arms changed everything. Jay Lays is passionate about pizza and guns. He's combining the two in his new special, a 15% discount for anyone who brings in their concealed carry permit or an open carry firearm. Lays says he got the idea from an ice cream shop in Utah.
Well, when I found out they were from Utah and they made news over in Virginia, I was wondering why nobody in Virginia was doing it.
Virginia Beach is a military community, and Lays' decision to promote the right to bear arms is getting overwhelming support. Talk about business before the promotion and business after the promotion. Has it really blown up? What have you seen?
Business has really blown up. So much support for the Second Amendment has come out of it. We actually are seeing a 1,000% increase, which is 10 times the amount of business from before we started the special.
Since the special began, Lay says about 95% of his customers show their concealed carry permits or have an open carry firearm. And he's getting more than just local support. Major media networks are now spreading the story across the country. Once Jay's discount started to get national attention, he got some pretty long-distance customers.
This particular order was sent in from California by Calico Light Arms manufacturer, and since they couldn't be here, they wanted to support us by buying 5 large pizzas and to help our community out by donating it to our homeless shelter.
Why is it important for you to support the Second Amendment right to bear arms?
It's very important to me because it was built into the framework of our government, and without it, I believe that the system wouldn't work, because the Second Amendment is the only insurance that we have against the government being too oppressive on the people.
Jay's also been reaching out to other businesses in the area, hoping that they'll join him in taking a stand for the Second Amendment. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
And as Caitlin mentioned, Jay has also been reaching out to other businesses in the area, hoping that they'll join him in taking a stand for the Second Amendment. A spring snowstorm is slamming into the Midwest today. It started as a windstorm that toppled trees and snapped power lines in California. Gusts topped 80 miles an hour at some places in Southern California. That same blustery cold front has now spread from Montana to New Mexico, and it's whipping up blizzard conditions in some areas. Up to 20 inches of snow are expected in the mountains of Colorado, and up to a foot of snow is predicted for Denver. Many schools there are closed and flights are canceled. Tornadoes are possible all the way from Nebraska to Texas throughout the day. Coming up, more and more women are moving in with their boyfriends while they're paying a higher price in the end.
Today we're on a field trip to discover what inflation is doing to our paper money. In this hand is a $20 bill, and in this hand is a $20 US gold coin. They used to have the same buying power, but how much can they buy today? In this first basket is what my $20 bill buys: milk, bread, peanut butter, and jelly. And here's what one $20 gold coin will buy: 6 baskets full, worth nearly $2,000, almost 100 times more food, simply by owning gold dollars instead of paper dollars. History shows that the gold coins have been the best way to beat the rising cost of living. So class, the moral is that unless you want to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the future, you should turn some paper dollars into gold coins now. How and why is explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. Call the number below for a totally free copy. And that's the simple truth.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry, they have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
From CBN.
Broken Eardrum is playing at the Civic tonight.
And you'll just have to miss it.
This is so incredibly unfair.
A special story of love and sacrifice.
Joy, Mom comes up with something.
Christopher Quantum, you and I are going to discuss your attitude right this minute. Superbook.
No.
Join the Superbook DVD Club and get Superbook's newest episode, He is Risen. Plus 2 copies to share with others. All for your gift of $25.
They have arrested Jesus, the Messiah. Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you?
No! Please! You can't! They've taken him to Golgotha. We must hurry. Mary is about to lose her son. The worst thing any mother could face. I am not leaving her.
Superbook. It's an amazing way to build a strong spiritual foundation in the children you love.
Mary, who are you looking for?
I've seen him! He is alive!
Superbook, He is Risen, available now.
More young women are choosing to live with their boyfriends before getting married. That's according to a new survey by the Centers for Disease Control. Of the 12,000 women interviewed between 2006 and 2010, 48% said they lived with a man outside of wedlock. That's up from 34% in 1995. Observers say more and more people are living together as a testing ground before marriage. About 40% of the women who lived with a man went on to marry him within 3 years. Joining us now for more is Linda Mental. She's a licensed family counselor and author of the book, I Married You, Not Your Family. Linda, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Now, first of all, is living together a good testing ground for marriage?
Absolutely not. And we're going to talk a little bit about the multiple negative effects that it has, particularly on women. So the idea why people go into this is because they're part of the divorce revolution. They're usually children of divorce. They're really afraid of the risks involved in marriage. But what is so surprising to me when we look at the risks of marriage versus the risk of cohabitating has a much higher fallout in terms of negativity.
Why do you think more women are making this choice to live with their boyfriends?
Well, it's interesting when you look at why women go into cohabitation versus men. Men tend to do it more out of a convenience factor, and women do it because of the emotional bond. Now, that's an interesting, difference in terms of why they go in. But then because of that emotional bond, women really go in expecting to get married. And in the majority of cases, that doesn't happen. So exactly what they want doesn't happen for them.
It's interesting that the CDC only surveyed women. Why do you think that is?
Well, the fallout of women is much more of an impact. When we look at things like domestic violence, women have a much higher rate when they're cohabitating with someone versus marrying somebody of domestic violence. The impact on children, and mothers are usually the ones that go into these relationships with children. So I think they were looking at what the fallout is more for women than for men.
Do women pay a higher price for living together and sex outside marriage?
Absolutely. I just mentioned the domestic violence factor. Women who cohabitate versus marry have a higher rates of depression, higher rates of anxiety. They have no legal rights. They have no property rights when it comes to maybe the division after the children, is that it doesn't provide the stability that children need in those relationships. There are financial fallouts for women. Women who marry do better than women who don't marry. The emotional happiness of women is higher when you get married versus when you're cohabitating. And the list like that, Charlene, just goes on and on.
What do parents tell their children in this increasing, changing world? How do they convince them to swim against the tide?
Well, this is what is really good news to me. There is a study that shows that parents' attitude towards cohabitation greatly impacts whether or not their child, who grows up to be a young adult, will actually cohabitate. So parents who have been shown to be very negative about cohabitation, the kids will typically think about it first, possibly delay, and in most cases they don't cohabitate because of the parental attitude. So for once, it looks like young adults are actually listening to their parents. On the other hand, if parents have cohabitated and they're very liberal in their view about that, which obviously is not a biblical view, then kids do tend to have a tendency to do the same thing and to cohabitate with their spouse or the person they'd like to be their spouse, or maybe they're just testing the marriage with.
Good news there. Linda Mental, her book is called I Married You, Not Your Family. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, broadcasting a message of peace in a country rocked by violence. How churches and TV stations are using Superbook south of the border.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
More than 60,000 Mexicans have died in drug-related violence in the past 6 years. But many parents worry about another kind of violence, the kind their children see on TV. But CBN is offering a different kind of program, and TV executives are taking note. Esteban Castro reports from Mexico City.
Even though it is a beautiful and colorful country, Mexicans are getting fed up with the violence, no matter where it comes from.
TV programs are very violent. They offer things that are not good for my children. So instead, we prefer going out for a walk or reading a book.
More than 32 million children live here in Mexico, but it's not always easy for them to find something worth watching on television. Parents of these children are concerned about the problem, and so are the TV stations who are looking for new programs to broadcast. Eric Reid, an executive producer at Cadena 3, the third largest television network in Mexico, says their policy is to reject programs with violent content.
We think violence starts at home, and it's going to be very hard to eliminate violence when we have a problem that is not only coming from external sources, but from our own homes.
That's why Cadena 3 decided to air a 90-minute Superbook special on the life of Jesus this Easter weekend. While the new Superbook series aired for the first time in Mexico, this church, Amistad Cristiana, hosted an event allowing children to meet Gizmo personally and watch the Superbook special. Fanny Guerrero invited some of her neighbors, not just 2 or 3, but 22.
I want to share the story of Jesus with these children. Otherwise, where we live, it will be very hard for them to know about him.
Álvaro Sánchez didn't miss a detail of this story.
This proves to me that Jesus is the Son of God.
As a teacher, Eurídice Pardillo rarely sees children paying attention to anything for long periods of time.
I was impressed to see the boys and girls watching the cartoon without blinking. That's very hard because children are always moving. I'm sure they are receiving the message.
She was right. When Eurídice invited children to come forward for prayer, the reaction surprised her even more. 8-year-old Kevin was among the first to walk up to the front of the auditorium. Just like the characters in the story, he wanted something from God.
I told Jesus to come to my heart, to forgive my sins, because God is a Father.
Now CBN hopes more and more Mexican television stations see Superbook as an opportunity to meet a need in the market.
So we know that this is going to be a eye-opener for some of the TV stations that on the past they have not been interested on these kind of programs.
Hopefully this enthusiasm will go viral. Esteban Castro, CBN News, Mexico City.
And our thanks to Esteban Castro of our Mundo Cristiano program in South America. And you can find out more about Superbook and get copies of the DVDs at cbn.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. That it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? $60? $40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Finally, when all else fails, call your mom. At least that's what one emergency dispatcher did.
I heard my partner taking the call, and I was listening to him, and I was just overhearing what was going on and realized that the area he was talking about, I knew exactly where it was, and it was right where basically most of my family was at that moment.
Raiden Grasseth was working her 911 shift when she overheard a co-worker's phone call. A kayaker had fallen overboard at a treacherous spot in the river. Raiden knew the spot immediately. It was near where her mom was celebrating Easter dinner.
Sometimes eavesdropping is good, especially if you're going to save a life. I actually borrowed one of the kayaks that was there at the scene and kayaked out to make sure that the person was okay and to be there just in case she would slip and go back into the water.
A sheriff's deputy said that police were on the way by boat, but were 30 minutes away. They say that Raiden's mom probably saved the kayaker's life. God bless them. Thank God for that. Well, that's going to do it for the CBN News Channel. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about at cbnnews.com. Have a great day.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957. Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.